Hiya, and welcome to Adastra. After a full solid month of nothing but echo, we're playing this game now. Let's just... hang on. I've already played this like so many times, but fuck. Fuck. I am genuinely scared that I'm actually going to hit the control key, but we'll just jump right in. It's so large. It's too much. How do they get anything done? Sensing doubt. Shall we proceed with the directive, Amicus? I don't know. Are you sure they're level 5? Data from mission 3265-193 indicates primate species with level 5 intelligence and... Understood. Thank you. Most recent data indicates that all uplift attempts failed. Ha! That figures. Why did we try to uplift them here in the... Why did we try to uplift here in the first place? Sensing doubt. Shall I proceed? Name of the planet? Earth. Location of Romanus uplift? The city of Rome in the state of Italy. Is the probe there? It has arrived. Give me a visual. Zoom in. That doesn't look like Adastra at all. Reminder that uplift failed. Ruins of uplift attempt remain. Show me the ruins. Showing the Roman Forum. Sensing doubt. Shut up, please. What the hell are they even saying? That's not the language. It's all messed up. Sensing that creature there. They are called humans. Get closer. It's a human? Collecting data. He appears to be a young male human. Initiate landing sequence. Have you located the directive? Yes. Warning that full nexus analysis is incomplete. Now, please. We cannot waste time outside of the stretch drive. Initiating landing sequence. It's hard to believe that I'm actually here. After years of fantasizing about it, I'm in Rome. Oh, fuck. I've been bouncing around with my friends like an idiot all day. Yeah, I look like a total tourist, but this is what I've been saving up for the past 2 years. A whole semester in Rome with the study abroad program. All the conversations I've had with my parents about what a waste of money it would be evaporates from my brain as I take in the view. We only have a few hours, so we move from the Forum to Palatine Hill, and finally to a nearby disco where I get just a little drunk. Before I know it, it's 2 in the morning, and somehow my friends and I are able to stumble into a taxi that takes us back to our apartments. I walk unsteadily through the darkness, glad that I have the place to myself for now. Apparently my group was the first to arrive, and my assigned flatmates won't be here for a few days at least. I open the door to my room and move my hand along the wall. I stumble in, then sit on my bed, bouncing happily for a moment. I think about going out onto the balcony, but I've been walking all day and it feels too nice to be sitting down. Plus, it might not be a great idea considering the state I'm in right now. Still, just knowing the magic of the city is just outside my window is going to make it hard to sleep. I sigh happily and look around my little room. Actually, I'm told it's kind of big by the city standards. It's still a little bare since I just moved in today. I'd basically just dropped my suitcases next to the door before running out again. I glance at them, but decide I'm way too tired right now to unpack even if my pajamas are in there. It's fine if I'm just laying on top of the covers. I'll get to it tomorrow. In the meantime, I just lay back, smiling in the afterglow of today's excitement. And tomorrow, I'll get to see even more. Damn it, I need to calm down. No way am I going to have the energy I'll need tomorrow if I'm up all night. I've got the whole semester, and on top of that, school doesn't actually start for another 2 weeks. There's plenty of time. Just relax for now and enjoy it. With that thought in my head, I start to drift off. Something moves. I lay there in the darkness, wondering if I dreamed it. Oh fuck. I'd been dreaming, even though I can't remember exactly what it was about. Something about a portal, maybe? I listened for a while, but there's no other sound, just the occasional soft whoosh of a car passing by outside my balcony. I shift around a little, like suffocating humidity is making the sheets stick to my skin, and I wonder if maybe there's a fan in the closet. I finally sit up in bed, realizing that there's no way I'm going to fall back to sleep like this. I could at least try sliding open the balcony door, though I'm not sure that will do me any good. Worth a try, I guess. I groggily slide out of bed and try to slide the glass door open, but it doesn't budge. I struggle for a few more seconds before sighing and moving toward the door to find the light switch. My feet slide along the semi-cool wooden floor, which feels great, while my hands stretch out in front of me, searching for the wall. Right then, I remembered that I was woken up by noises, and I imagined some intruder standing there in the dark, waiting for me to bump into him. Feeling the hair stand up on the back of my neck, I quicken my pace and find the wall, fumbling around until I quickly glance around the room, relieved that it's empty. My parents had warned me about the crime rate here. While the city is technically safe in terms of murder, robberies and muggings are apparently pretty common. I had shrugged it off at the time, but now that I'm alone, I make my way to the balcony, looking for the lock before finally seeing that there's a latch near the top of the door. I unhook it and slowly slide the door open. I'm disappointed to find that the air wafting from outside is almost as stuffy as the air inside. Still, I take a moment to stare out at the lights of the city for a while. Even though I'm more interested in the ruins, the city itself is undeniably beautiful. Nothing like my hometown. That's when I notice there's a strange smell in the air, like burning rubber. I stick my head out a bit further, looking around for the source, but I see nothing. Maybe that's normal here? I look back at the clock on the wall. 4 a.m. I sigh and shuffle back to bed, only realizing that I've left the light on once I've already fallen back first onto the covers. I sigh and will myself to get up, but the tiredness has returned and the heavy humidity is almost like a warm blanket pressing down on me. I close my eyes. I'll get up and turn it off in a second. I just need to rest my eyes for a bit. Just for a bit. Something moves again, and there's another smell in the air. A good smell this time. Something floral. It reminds me of lavender. And that's when something hard and sharp presses into my left eye socket, just above the eye. It doesn't really hurt, but it shocks me awake. It leans over me, something shiny in its grip, which is pulling back from my head. Off. Ah! I kick out with both feet, hitting the thing leaning over me in its body. At a pole. It lets out a surprised grunt, stumbling back and falling on its rear while I scramble back on my bed, pressing myself against the wall. Almost immediately, it scrambles back up, revealing its massive build and its masculine shape. He adjusts his cape and smooths down his fur before rubbing at his chest, giving me an odd look. Then he fixes a smile back on his face. Ave. I stare. That's all I can do is stare. He stares back at me for a moment, then clears his throat. Hello, Ave. The space above my left eye throbs, and it sounds like I'm hearing two things at once from the same voice. Potes in telehere? Do you understand? Again, the bizarre twitching in my eye, in my brain, and hearing two things at once. I feel like I'm going to be sick. The room shifts and swirls a bit, then slowly starts to settle again. The twitching in my head turns into a dull throb. I'm having a nightmare. Do you understand me? I stare at him and he stares back. Calm, I don't know if the chip is working. What? The creature raises its hand to its head, rubbing at it. Well, he can speak, and it's translating. Can you understand me? When am I going to wake up? He keeps staring at me, and automatically I respond to him. Yes? Ah, good. Seems it's finally working now. They take a moment to adjust to the host brain. I struggle to keep up with his words. I'm still hearing what he's saying. It's almost Italian with the inflections and the rolling R's, but at the same time, it's definitely not Italian. Still, I can understand what he's saying, like he's speaking my own language at the same time. It makes it hard to concentrate. What is your name? I feel like I should put my username as my name, but I'll let you decide. You know what? I'm I'm just gonna go with the default name. His expectant look almost forces the answer out of my mouth. Marco. Marco, beautiful. I'm Amicus. The confusing double language I was hearing is starting to fade, and now only my own language comes from his mouth. It's odd, the words not quite matching up with his lips. What's even more distracting are the massive canines that continue to flash behind those lips. I need to get the hell out of here. Dream or not, I don't like the look of the teeth and claws on this thing. Ah, is the lingua having troubles again? I don't respond, instead glancing at the door just to the right and behind this Amicus. He frowns. Calm, you told me they're level 5. I can't even speak with it. It takes me a moment to realize that he's not talking to me. I hear soft chatter coming from the wolf like someone's talking to him from a phone, but I can't see anything. Yeah, well, he kicked me in the chest. Amicus rubs at his chest with a frown, more muffled speaking. Of course I didn't. He just kicked me. He's looking at me like he has no idea. More muffled speaking interrupts him. Oh, wait, what? Are you serious? Now he looks pissed, and I press myself harder against the wall, trying to work up the courage to make a break for the door. How? Wait, so you're always offering me opinions on my mood, but you couldn't offer that? More muffled baffling. More muffled babbling, but the wolf thing interrupts it with a snarl. Well, what the hell do I do now? His lips are drawn back, and now I get to have a real good view of those canines. I stare wide-eyed at them, and that's when he seems to notice me again. He readjusts his expression into a smile, but I can still see a fang poking out. Hey, listen. Something about the way he acts, his expressions, demeanor. He's so human. Could you come with me outside for a quick moment? For some reason, the realization of his humanness makes me absolutely positive that this is a dream. This must be a character from a game or movie that I'd seen. I shake my head slowly at him. Uh, um, please? I just stare, still waiting to wake up. I've had dreams where I couldn't wake up before. This is just one of those. I remember reading somewhere that if you aren't sure you're dreaming, you can plug your nose. If you can still breathe, then it's definitely a dream. But I remain frozen against the wall. The massive wolf sighs. Then his paw suddenly moves to my waist. Wait, no. His paw suddenly moves to his waist. Only have a moment to see some sort of device with multicolored lights before he moves and my entire body seizes up and things go black. My body feels strangely numb. It's like when I wake up with a dead leg or arm, except right now it's my entire body. The only thing I can really feel is a sharp, cold pain behind and above my left eye. I try to wiggle my fingers and hands, wondering if I'm having some sort of sleep paralysis. They move. At least, I think they do. Everything's so dark. Am I still in the apartment? Usually there's a little bit of light coming from the balcony because of the street lamps, but everything is pitch black. I start to feel a little panicky, both from the numb feeling and also the idea that I might have gone blind somehow. I try to remember what happened last. Did I go outside somewhere? Did I go somewhere? Maybe a club? The disco. Did I take something? I start to push myself up, and that's when I feel something soft under my hands, and something very hard under it, like concrete. I'm definitely not in a bed right now. Now I really am starting to panic, wondering if I've been kidnapped. I get on my hands and knees, thankful that at least the numb feeling is going away. I'm also relieved to find out I'm not blind. I see a soft glow of light outlining what's roughly the shape of a door in front of me. I open my mouth, about to call out before I force it shut again. I have no idea where I am or how I got here, but I'm not liking the signs. My head throbs a little, and I close my eyes tight, trying to steady my breathing, listening to my heart pound. I definitely got back to my apartment, and I remember going to bed, and then I remember. My eyes fly open as I remember that wolf creature staring at me with those blue eyes. And those teeth! Oh my god, there's no way. There's no fucking way. I open my eyes again and stare at the soft light, trying to listen. There's a constant hum of some kind, a whirring of a large machine. It's gentle and almost soothing, but it makes me think I'm in some sort of vehicle. But I don't feel anything, no bumps or turns. I slowly crawl toward the door, listening as hard as I can for voices, or movement, anything that might tell me someone's nearby. As I get closer to the door, I do hear something, a type of beeping and chirping. I stay in that position for what feels like a solid 15 minutes, not hearing anything more. I think about trying to open the door, but I realize that might not be a great idea. I still don't know if that wolf is real. No, I know he isn't real. What's more likely is that someone slipped something into my drink and I hallucinated something. And I hallucinated everything. I had laughed off my parents' warnings that tourists are vulnerable in Rome, but now that doesn't seem so crazy. Someone had drugged me, followed me into my apartment, then kidnapped me. I need something, a weapon, before I try opening the door. I feel like I'm in a closet of some kind, so there's probably something here that I can use. Slowly, I get on my knees and start moving forward, waving my hands out in front of me. If I can find the shelves, then I can just feel around for something solid, and my hand sweeps what feels like a box, and what follows is a clang of metal as something falls to the floor. I cringe, squeezing my eyes shut as the sound echoes around the room I'm in. I kneel there in complete silence, stunned, and that's when light spills over my body, followed by a large shadow. Oh, hey, you're awake! Did you know he was awake? Yes, for approximately 2 hours. Wait, is that 2 hours? No, for approximately 0.2 hours. I swear to the gods, why are you so useless? I sit there, not having turned around yet, but the shadow gets bigger, and I feel him looming over me. I get a whiff of lavender. Finally, I slowly turn my head and see the wolf. He towers over me, his broad muzzle pointed down so that he can look me right in the eye. While his size and general demeanor are intimidating, his eyes are warm and friendly. That doesn't really matter to me right now, as I realize that I hadn't been dreaming or hallucinating earlier. Or the dream hallucination is ongoing. The wolf moves toward me, and I immediately scoot back until the shelves behind me dig into my spine. I vaguely notice the metal thing that I'd knocked over earlier. It's a polygon-shaped thing with a long cord running out of it. Remember, the human doesn't know about the Galaxias. Proceed with caution. The wolf's ears flick before he visibly tries to write his expression into a smile. Hello, human. Sorry, I mean, Marco, right? Again, I get caught up in watching the movements of his mouth counter to what I'm hearing in my brain. Hold on, I got a text. I'm going to answer it real quick. Here we go. Again, I get caught up in watching the movements of his mouth counter to what I'm hearing in my brain. Then I notice that he's waiting, watching me intently. I open my mouth, then close it, then nod. The wolf still stares at me, seeming not to understand. Right? The silence stretches on until I finally force myself to speak. Yes. It comes out in barely a whisper. Great. Great. So now that we understand that, I can tell you that I'm from the star Stella Vita, very far away from here. The wolf sets his paws far apart, his eyes wide as he emphasizes the distance. He's talking to me in a way one might talk to a very dumb 2-year-old. I live on a moon called Adastra. Do you know what a moon is? You live on what's called a planet. I stare at him for a moment, almost offended despite my continuing shock. Amicus smiles gently. A moon is a large... I know what a moon is. Amicus blinks at me. We have one. My words feel automatic. Actually, everything feels like it's on autopilot right now. Oh, well, I didn't know that. That's great. There's an awkward silence as the two of us stare at each other. The initial fear is wearing off. I feel that if this alien is meaning to hurt me, he would have done it by now. At least, for now. Amicus rubs his paws together nervously. Are you hungry? He motions at his mouth, then rubs his stomach while licking his lips. Again, gestures and expressions that I have no trouble interpreting. The only alien thing about him is his appearance. I don't know? The wolf frowns, almost looking frustrated. His slow speech gets even slower. Well, why don't we give it a try then? I guess my answers don't exactly make me seem intelligent. But I don't know how else to respond. Why don't you come out onto the deck with me? I'll make something. Amicus gives an exaggerated come on gesture with both paws as he walks backwards, straight into the wall as he misses the door. Ow, yeah, let's go, human. He rubs the back of his head with a wince before turning and walking out the door. I stare at the open door for a moment before slowly getting up and following him, walking over a brown shag rug, the soft thing I'd been laying on. That's when I'm standing in the middle of what looks like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. It's small and cramped, but the amount of unfamiliar glowing technology is almost overwhelming. Glass panels cover almost every inch of the walls around me, displaying images and characters that I can't even come close to understanding. Straight ahead of me are large windows, looking out into the blackness, dotted with specks of light. Specks of light. I'm in a spaceship! Where the hell is he taking me? Amicus is over to my right side, messing with what I can only describe as a large espresso machine growing out of the side of the spaceship. He's holding a cup under a nozzle, ducking down a little to stare at the opening. He notices me looking. Takes a while to warm up. I have to warn you that it's not very good, but it's probably better than most of what you eat on your planet, I mean. Just as he's talking, a very thick globule of brown sludge shoots out of the nozzle, half of it missing the cup. Ah, damn it. Wolf hastily moves the cup to catch the rest of it while reaching over with his other paw to snag a rag from a hook on the side of the machine. Sorry, this thing is near broken. Do you want to sit down? He nods his head over at one of the two seats in front of the windows. I'm gonna turn it up a bit so I can hear the amazing music. Just, don't touch any of the bright lights, okay? I make my way over to the front of the deck, still waiting to wake up. I stand beside the seat, reaching out to touch the soft red bristles of the helmet and the wings on the sides. Yo, I realized it's not long ago, but when I originally played this, I legit thought that there were, lizards in there. This only enforces the feeling that I'm hallucinating or dreaming. There's a strange Roman influence to Amicus and the ship, one that's almost cartoonish. Has my obsession over Rome gone too far? I can just imagine myself in some Italian hospital right now, babbling about Roman wolf aliens. Go on and sit. Amicus plants himself heavily in the seat next to mine, holding 2 cups of what looks like brown sludge. He holds one out to me. I take it gingerly before sitting down. Looking into the cup, the food has the consistency and look of half-melted chocolate ice cream. Except it's warm and smells like dirt. Like literal mud. I scrunch my nose up at it when Amicus notices. Yeah, it's not the best. I actually had some good food that I brought along with me. But I ate it all before I got here. The wolf shrugs, then settles excitedly into his seat. So, tell me about where you're from. What's life like on Earth? It's okay. Okay, well, what's your occupation? I'm a student. Oh, what discipline? I try to adjust to the surreal feeling of talking to this wolf. I don't know yet. I was looking into history, Greek and Roman studies. That seems confusing to him for some reason. Do you have an emperor? What's he like? I catch myself staring at his mouth again, at the weird way his mouth is unsynced with his words. No. Then how... I interrupt him. Why isn't your mouth matching up with the sounds you're making? Eh? Even with the spaceship and alien around me, it's the weird distortion of feeling like I'm watching a dubbed movie that has me most unsettled. Oh. Amicus points a finger to a spot just above my left eye. I gave you a lingua. It helps you understand me. I stare at him, but he doesn't offer anything more. How? Oh, well, it, sort of attaches to the language center in the brain. It's very smart. It learns from the host brain and is able to interpret the 8 major Galaxia's languages for them. And how does it do that? Well, our brains are structured in similar ways, at least among sapiens, so it works almost universally. Honestly, it's parental tech, so I'm not fully sure of how it works. None of us do, but it does work. Amicus continues to look at me, clearly concerned about something. But I'm concerned too. How did you get it into my brain? You ask a lot of questions. I stare at him. Well, this is all kind of new to me. Should I not be asking questions? It's fine, I've just never had a child ask me questions, really. Anyway, there's a device that inserts it. I was lucky to find one left over on the ship. Inserts it. I rub at the spot between my eye and eye socket, the skin slightly tender. Does it hurt? That should wear off in a few hours. I stare at Amicus for a few moments, then down in my cup, feeling a bit sick. Staring at the brown mush isn't helping. Need help with that? You can eat it like this. He dips his muzzle down toward his own cup. He sticks out a long, thick pink tongue, pressing it into the sludge before cupping it and bringing it back up into his mouth. He pulls a bit of a face before smiling. Not terrible. Then he looks at me a bit closer. Wait, you do have a tongue, right? I stare back at him for a moment before setting the cup to the side on the armrest. What are you doing? Huh? What is all this? Where are you taking me? At this point, I'm starting to get over the shock. I'm also starting to get annoyed at this alien's complete disregard for basically everything to do with me. You kidnapped me. You left me in a closet. You're feeding me what looks like shit, and now you tell me you jabbed something into my brain? Amicus actually flinches at that. Does it still hurt? I can give you a pain manager. I don't want anything from you. What is all this? The wolf just stares at me, wide-eyed. It's like he didn't even consider me being capable of being upset. Hey, it's okay. You kidnapped me! I feel myself getting more panicked, both from the realization of what's happened and what's currently happening. No, well, I mean, you tased me or something. What? You electrocuted me! No, it's not electricity. That doesn't make it better! For a brief moment, I think about overpowering this wolf, somehow turning the ship around if I can figure it out. Sensing hostile intent, proceed with caution, Amicus. Amicus doesn't say anything, and I see him gripping into his cup tightly. I get the odd feeling that he didn't expect me to point these things out to him. Did he think I was that unintelligent? I can tell he's calculating something in his head right now, and that makes me nervous. Maybe I should have just played dumb. We stare at each other for a long while until Amicus' steely gaze forces me to look away. I choose to glance up at the ceiling, deciding to change the subject and give myself some time to just think. What is that thing? Amicus clears his throat. What? That voice. I nod up at the ceiling in the vague direction where I heard the sound come from. The thing that can apparently sense my hostile intents. Oh. Amicus looks up at the ceiling too. That's Computatrum, or Com. He's pretty annoying, aren't you, Com? I can provide diagnostics on the ship, on the mood and competence of crewmates, Thank you, Com. Anyway, he's not actually a sapient. He's a program that can process language and spit out information stored in his database. Amicus pauses. I'm sorry, you probably don't understand what I'm talking about. I think I do. Artificial intelligence, maybe? I reach instinctively for the pocket of my jeans, but I remember that I left my phone on the bedside table. Amicus's eyes widen once again, and again I wonder if I should be keeping my mouth shut. Revealing how much I know seems to be some sort of trigger for him. Ah, so have you been in space before? No. I look out the window staring at the stars. Okay, have your people ever been to space? No, we haven't. Do you know what atoms are? Nuclear energy, maybe? No. Based on the nexus analysis on Earth, these statements appear to be misleading, Amicus. I glance at the ceiling again, realizing now that I've got a constant spy above me. I look back at Amicus and we stare at each other in silence for a long moment. Then I realize how absurd all of this is. What do you want with me? Amicus looks away, seeming to think. Well, it's part of a program on my planet to introduce new aliens to the Galaxias. What is that? It's the Greater Galactic Civilization, Marco. It's a gradual strategy to slowly introduce Earth to the idea of other sapiens. Oh, is this happening to other humans? Yes. I contemplate this for a moment. And when you're done showing me, you'll take me back? There's a momentary pause that I don't like very much. Yes. I imagine that I'd hear these statements appear to be misleading from Calm right now, if he were on my side. I look into my cup of brown sludge again. Well, to be honest, I'm not all that interested, so could you just take me back now? Amicus stares at me. I've got school and a family. They don't know where I am right now. What, I mean, don't you want to see the galaxy? I really think that it would be amazing for someone like you that hasn't seen it before. The wolf starts fidgeting with his paws, not looking at me, choosing to stare out the windows. He isn't wrong. It would be pretty cool to see the galaxy, but not with someone like him who kidnapped me, taking me somewhere for a reason that he isn't telling me. No, I actually want to go home right now. Amicus stares at me for a full 10 seconds before looking away. How about we wait until we get to my home, then we can discuss it? No, take me back. I feel my heart hammering in my chest as I start to realize that this alien is definitely not going to take me back. I stand up and Amicus flinches, bringing his paws up to his chest as if I'm going to attack him. We stay like that for a moment. I'm breathing hard, staring down at the wolf while Amicus stares back up at me, wide-eyed. Finally, Amicus lets out a big sigh, looking back out the window. Okay, I'm going to take you back. I'm sorry. I watch him for a moment, looking for signs of sincerity, but he still won't look at me. Really? Yes, but it's complicated. We're, on a trajectory for Adastra. It'll take time for us to turn around. I keep watching him, not sure what to do. I feel like he's lying, but if he is, there's really nothing I can do about it. I'm stuck here with him, probably millions of miles from Earth, with no way of knowing how to get back. So I just stand there, arms folded tightly against my chest, staring out the window too. That's when I see a star brighter than all of the others, almost too bright to look at. Is that the sun? The what? Is that my star? My planet's star? Amicus squints in the direction I'm looking in. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's your star. I can't remember the name we have for it. It's a bunch of numbers. How far away are we? Not far. We could get back there in no time. Amicus stands up next to me, seeming to stretch. So, are we going back? Yeah. Just gotta do it in a way that doesn't waste too much energy. I still have to get back to Adastra after all. I stare in the direction of the sun again, my gaze slightly averted from the piercing dot. How long has it been since I was kidnapped? I wonder if my friends have alerted the school, or even the authorities. How am I going to explain this? There's a movement to my right, and as I'm turning to look, something cold presses into the side of my neck. A familiar sensation of my muscles tightening up makes me slam back into the seat. At the same time, my mind seems to wipe clean, empty. Suddenly, I'm surrounded by soft and warm gray fur. Feel like a limp blanket as I'm flopped around, my muscles like jelly. It's not a bad feeling. In fact, I feel kinda great. I would smile if my facial muscles were working. I'm laid on the ground and then my arms are pushed behind me. Something starts to wind around my wrists. Still detecting consciousness from the human. Insufficient charge used. I used it on the lowest setting. I think I hit him with too much last time. Looks like he's mostly out anyway, though. I hear ragged breathing in my ear as my arms are jerked around. Damn it, he's more sapient than any child I've known. Sensing distress. Would you like a stress tablet, Amicus? Maybe even as intelligent as a wolf. Well, almost. If they've been to space, then they're far past level 5. I try to open my eyes, but the eyelids are too heavy to lift. Maybe level 10? My brain isn't really working either. I can't seem to focus. Padded footsteps move around my head. Then I hear what sounds like an alarm, followed by something I can't really explain. My mind startles as that deep voice starts up again. What do I do now? I've messed this up about as badly as I could have. Solutions, Calm? Solutions. Consider returning the human back to Earth. If no evidence is left behind, it is unlikely his statements would be believed. Too late for that since I just activated the stretch drive. Yes, that was inadvisable. Yeah, well, I don't know how advanced his species is. If he was being misleading, then that means they're spacefaring. They could have patrols in their star system. I wanted to get out as soon as possible. You know you could have offered the solution before I did that. You've set me to minimal interruptions. Next solution. Consider termination of the human and incinerations of the remains through the radiation of the space drive. Oedipal, no. Next solution. Consider taking the human to Adastra and use him as your pet as you originally planned. From there, you may pass him off as less sapient. It is unlikely you will be questioned. I don't know. He already despises me, and after what I just did... Amicus. Alternative solutions point to a higher likelihood that the monitors will be alerted to your actions. Proceed with caution. Calm, please wipe the last 10 minutes of conversation, then go into sleep mode until I wake you. I need to think. Wiping memory, entering sleep mode. A few moments of silence go by, and I feel a wave of fatigue. I start to fall asleep. Padded footsteps move closer to me, and I feel a presence looming. Then something heavy and soft rests on my forearm. I'm sorry. This was a mistake. Then I'm dragged for a short while before I come to rest on something shaggy and soft. Then silence. Then sleep. I float in a void of nothingness. Not even blackness. Nothingness. The feeling of having no sense of self, the boundaries of my being having no boundaries. It makes me panic. I'm still here, but nothing else exists. Am I all there is? I feel the borders of my sanity start to bend and break. It only lasts a moment before something massive and all-encompassing grabs hold of me. Instantly, I'm comforted, calmed by a sense of complete security. All is as it should be. I crack my eyes open to a gray ceiling, the familiar hum of the ship in my ears. My back aches as I feel my hands bunched up underneath me, making me arch uncomfortably. The numbness isn't there like last time. Instead, it just feels like I woke up from a deep sleep. I can tell I'm back in the utility closet laying on the shag rug, but the door is open, allowing me to actually see. Slowly, I turn my head just a bit, and I'm able to vaguely make out the small deck that I'd just been in. I see Amicus to the far right, both his paws resting on the counter with the food dispenser looking down at the panel. He's got his back to me at an angle, one foot crossed behind the other, his tail swishing back and forth while he mumbles to himself. As slowly as I can, I turn over onto my side, trying not to let out a groan of relief as my back and hands are relieved of pressure. I grimace through the pain of having blood rush back into my fingers. That's when I realize that my hands are tied at the wrists behind my back with a cord of some kind. The ends of it dangle through my fingers and it feels smooth and metallic. Some slow movements with my hand tells me immediately that they haven't been tied well. My left hand is fairly secure, but the loop around my right is loose. I get the feeling that if I pull hard enough, I might be able to slip it. And just like that, it comes out. My shoulder jerks when I do, and I freeze, waiting to see if Amicus might notice. He goes on staring down at the panel, leaning forward to rest his chin on a fist. Cassius is probably going to figure it out right away. I know it. Amicus sighs and hunches over further. I let out the breath I'm holding as quietly as I can before I start looking around, moving my head as little as possible. On the shelves are a variety of different objects that I can't identify. They all have a heavy industrial look to them, and I know that I could use any of them as a weapon. There's a long pipe-like object at the end of a bottom shelf, and I imagine hefting that in both hands, bringing the end of it down on the top of that stupid wolf's. Amicus suddenly straightens up, and I stiffen, closing my eyes. I hear the wolf move, padding in my direction. That continues until there's a pause, and I can feel his presence standing in the doorway. Crack open an eye just a tiny bit to see what he might be doing. Get a vague image of him standing over me, looking down. Hello, human Marco? I don't move, and I breathe as evenly as I can. Hello? He must know I'm awake. I can feel myself shaking from all the tension. Damn it. Amicus mumbles to himself as he turns away, moving back towards the deck. That's when I realize that this might be my best chance to make my move. He's not going to take me back. He's knocked me out twice, and that's reason enough to do what I'm about to do. As quietly as I can, I roll over and reach out for the metal pipe. By some miracle, I manage not to clang it against the metal rack it's on. Quietly, I bring it up in both hands as I stand. It's heavy, a lot heavier than I expected, but I can manage it. I focus on the retreating wolf's back and move at a half run, my bare feet allowing me to quietly pad toward him. Despite that, I see his ears come up at the last second, his body starting to shift in a way that tells me he's about to turn around. And I swing. What happens next is something that I can't explain. I aim for his head, wanting to cause as much damage as possible, not really thinking about the consequences of what might happen if I seriously injure or even kill him. But for some inexplicable reason, the trajectory of my swing suddenly dips down as if caused by some invisible magnet, making me miss Amicus's head. The strange force doesn't lessen the power of my swing, though, and it carries through to land with a hard, meaty thump into the side of the wolf's thick neck. Ugh. Amicus cringes, both paws moving to cover the back and side of his neck, dropping into a crouch. He looks back at me, his eyes wide and wild, an expression that sends a shot of fear into my body. I suddenly see him as a wild animal, a wild, scared, and very angry animal. I raise the pipe again, only to bring over my head to bring down on the head I just missed, but Amicus is fast. He leaps up from the crouch in an upward and forward motion, straight into my chest. I wheeze, but manage to stay on my feet as the wolf carries me backward to slam me against the wall of the deck. Amicus snarls in my face, teeth bared, one eye wincing shut. I struggle, but there's no way. He handles me like a rag doll, like a toy. This must be how someone feels during a wild animal attack, completely helpless. Suddenly wondering why evolution left us so damn defenseless. What the hell are you doing? Ugh. Amicus yells at me as he lets go of one of my wrists, to put a paw to his neck, cringing as he does. Damn it. I struggle with my freed hand, grabbing Amicus's face and trying to gouge his eyes and nose. The wolf immediately lets go of his neck and grabs the pipe. He wrenches it away, but I try to hold on and almost get lifted off my feet. He swings it one way, then violently in the other direction, throwing me to the floor of the deck as I lose my grip on my weapon. Amicus advances on me as I lay flat on my back, staring up at him wide-eyed, realizing how big of a mistake I'd made thinking I could handle a 7-foot-tall, muscle-bound wolf. I wonder if he's going to come at me with the pipe, but he throws it to the side. He starts to lean over me, still snarling. You little prick. This time I'll bind you up to your shoulders. How does that sound? He grabs up one of my arms, trying to pull me up, but I go limp. Get up! Otherwise, I'll make you. He grabs my other arm. That's when I notice his wide stance over me and a particular bulge between his legs. I hardly think about it, drawing back one foot as I launch it as hard as I can into his crotch. I feel a distinct soft form get flattened under my foot as it gets trapped between the force of my kick and the substantial weight of Amicus's body. If there was any doubt in my mind that this male alien would be affected any differently compared to a male human, his reaction quashed it. Amicus freezes, eyes wide, punching over me even further while his thighs snap together, trapping my foot. We both stay frozen for an awkward length of time as I stare at what I'd just done. And that's when I see the device hanging on his waistband, the one that he'd used to knock me out. I struggle to pull my foot free of the surprisingly tight embrace of his thighs while at the same time pulling my hands out of his now limp grasp. I reach for his waist, grabbing the device. Amicus, probably distracted by the unexpected nut shot, doesn't seem to notice, and I finally yank my foot free. As I stumble to my feet, the alien half-heartedly grabs at me, and I struggle against his paws before reaching for his red cape and pulling it over his head. Amicus finally stumbles back, one paw flying to his crotch, the other struggling with his cape as he stays bent over, mouth hanging open, making weird gasping sound like he was holding his breath. I look at the device in my hands, desperately trying to understand how to use it. A glass panel takes up most of the face of the device, like a phone, but two metal prongs stick out on one end. I frantically press at the screen and it comes to life, displaying a vertical bar. About a tenth of it is filled from the bottom with a light blue color. I push at it with my thumb, waiting for something to happen, for electricity to start arcing between the prongs or something. Instead, the bar fills with the slide of my thumb. I push it all the way up until the color turns a dark violet. I see a snarl I hear a snarl and see Amicus finally tear the cape off before he comes at me again, one paw still over his crotch, the other reaching out for me. I don't have time to think, I just duck under his approaching paw and press the prongs as hard as I can into his body. It sinks into his stomach and I hear the wolf make a huff sound into my ear. There's a pause as nothing seems to happen, then I press harder and squeeze the device, and the result is instant. There's no sound, but Amicus's body seizes violently, shaking as if he's having a seizure. The muscles in his stomach tense hard and push the device back out a few inches. I hold it there, not wanting to let up in case it isn't enough, in case he'll just recover and come at me again. After a few seconds, the wolf's seizing and shuddering stops on its own. I start to pull back and get a glimpse of Amicus's face. His muzzle hangs open and drool hanging from his chin, his eyes rolling back in his head. It's a scary sight, so I try to back away and Amicus comes with me, the contact of the device having been the only thing keeping him balanced. His weight takes me down, and the next thing I know is that I'm flat on my back, struggling to breathe as Amicus's incredible weight crushes me into the metal deck. He practically envelops me with a soft, furry body, his big head resting on my chest. I stare down at him, watching as his black lips and eyelids twitch, his tongue hanging out as he makes sporadic snoring sounds. I gasp and strain as I spend the next minute working myself out from under him, grimacing as his foamy drool smears on my chest. Finally, I manage to break free of his dead weight and crawl a few feet away, spending a few moments catching my breath. I look back at his still twitching form, his rump stuck slightly up in the air. I wonder how long I have before he wakes up. There's a long, shiny, thin quarter on my left wrist, and I start to work at the knot. It's a strange material, smooth and metallic, yet it bends as easily as rope. It's a pain in the ass getting it undone, though. It's like the dumb wolf just put as many knots into it as he could. He probably had no idea what he was doing, and now it makes sense why I was able to get out of it so easily. While I'm undoing the mess, I keep looking over at him. The twitches and snorts are subsiding, which I'm not sure is a good thing or not. Come on. I grunt as I finally pull the last tangle out, straightening the metal rope thing out in both my hands. I look between it and the knocked out wolf in front of me, giving my head a little shake. What the fuck is even happening? I get to work, planting my butt on Amicus's as I pull both of his paws behind his back. I have some difficulty keeping my balance as I lift his heavy arms and start winding the rope around his wrists. Not exactly an expert at tying hands behind backs either, but I feel far more confident in my work than Amicus ever should have in his own. I guess his carelessness makes some sort of sense considering I'm a tiny human and he's a giant canine. He probably thought he'd just be able to toss me back in the closet if I got free. I look over my work, somewhat satisfied with how neat and tight the binding is. I shift and almost slide off the wolf's ass, forcing me to put my hands back and steady myself on his thighs. They're thick and heavily muscled, and that's what makes me realize that they might also be a problem. While bending his arms a bit, I have no doubt in my mind he'd be able to take me out with a few nasty kicks. I stand up and start looking for more of that rope, but that's when I notice something strange happening outside the windows. Thin streaks of white light stretch and bend, moving slowly from the front before arching in long lines to the sides and disappearing from sight. I stare, mesmerized, then suddenly feel sick at the sight. I avert my eyes, looking at the wall while I watch the strange light show out of the corner of my eye. Are those stars? Are we in some sort of wormhole, or what is it called? Hyperspace? I start to get the feeling that I'm very, very far from Earth now, which makes me feel even more sick. I want to keep my mind off of it, so I set about searching the deck for more of the metal rope, trying to ignore that we might be moving at the speed of light into the depths of space. I don't have much luck. Most everything in the ship is flush to its surface with very few moving parts. I end up going back to the utility closet, and that's when I see that metal polygon with a long cord sticking out of it, the one I'd knocked off the shelf earlier. I lean over it and pull at it, deciding that it should hold even if it's more plasticky and not metal. 5 minutes later, I have his legs bound together. I search around for the taser for another minute before finding it pinned between Amicus's chest and the deck. I'm hot and sweaty as I finally sit back against the opposite wall, staring at the face-down wolf and his bindings. I weigh the taser in my hand, going over scenarios in my mind for what I'm going to say to him when he wakes back up. I'm not sure how long it takes. An hour, maybe two, before Amicus starts to stir. First he groans, then he rolls over a few times, and draws up his bound legs before trying to work his paws free. Finally, he opens his eyes, and because he's on his side, I'm the first one he sees. He squints, frowns, then groans again, turning over onto his stomach. What the hell? I clear my throat and swallow, trying not to show how nervous I am. Yeah, what the hell? You tased me again. What? Amicus turns his head to look at me again, then looks away, letting out another groan. Oh, my stomach. What did you do? Exactly what you did to me. I hold up my taser, turning it in the light so that the wolf can fully see it. Amicus stares at it for a moment before letting his face fall back to the floor of the deck. Oh gods, I feel like I'm on fire. Did you use it at full power? What the hell is wrong with you? Despite my fear and anxiety over this entire situation, I'm able to feel indignant. Me? You did the same thing to me, then lied to me, then tased me again, then tied me up. You're crazy. I would never use full power on anyone. Ugh. Amicus seems to ignore my rant as he rolls onto his back, arching over his tied paws, probably stretching out muscles that I'd hit the taser. I wait a while longer, listening to the grunts, groans, and complaints as Amicus continues to whine. I'm not that stupid, though. I can tell he's stalling for time, trying to figure out a way to get out of this. I stand up. Take me home. Amicus opens one eye, glaring at me. What? I said, take me home. Amicus goes quiet for a moment, his eyes closed, then he forces himself to sit up, visibly cringing as he's forced to use his stomach muscles. He scoots back with more complaints until he plants his back against the wall behind him. I see his shoulders shift, his biceps bulging, and I can tell that he's working and testing the restraints. I raise the taser. Stop moving or I'm going to hit you again. Fuck off. I move toward him, brandishing the taser like a sword. Hey, hey, hey! Amicus kicks his feet up, trying to block my attack. Now I see real fear in his eyes. Then stop moving and tell me how we get back. I don't really want to shock him again. It did look really painful, and on top of that, I don't want to knock him out for hours while our little ship is hurtling through space. Amicus stares at me for a moment, his feet still in the air before he slowly lowers them. I'll show you if you let me go. I actually laugh, and the sound seems to startle the wolf. Are you kidding me? Why should I trust you at all after what you've done to me? Amicus's ears flatten. Tell me where the hell you're taking me and why. Otherwise, I will zap you again. He seems at a loss for words. I can't tell you. I glare, and for a moment I consider just jabbing him again right then and there. Why not? The wolf remains silent as he looks away from me. I feel myself getting even more angry. I'm tired of this alien holding me hostage. Well, I guess I'll just have to figure it out on my own then. I turn away and start moving toward the front of the deck. Amicus shifts around behind me. What? You don't know the first thing about the ship. Don't... The big wolf grunts as he tries to get his feet under him. Don't touch anything. I ignore him and move to the panels, looking them over. The big one in the middle looks promising, and I start poking at it. I know I won't be able to figure out how to turn the ship around, but the wolf's worry over me touching the panels gives me an idea. I can probably mess things up to the point where he'll have to tell me what he's doing, or even how I might be able to get back. There aren't many options aside from torturing him, something I don't really want to do. The lines and shapes move with my finger, and Roman numerals pop up randomly here and there. Hey, what are you doing? Amicus huffs and puffs behind me, just as a circle appears and compresses around my finger like it's zeroed in on something. I look back to see Amicus hobbling up onto his tied-together feet, looking just about ready to topple over. You have no idea what... I feel a soft vibration under my finger, not unlike my phone's haptic feedback. Overriding sleep mode. Locked onto Stella 556425. No! Calm! Stop last directive! Voice commands for piloting are reserved for the Emperor, Amicus. Human, stop! Amicus starts hopping toward me on his bound feet, and I scramble to the side so he doesn't run into me. No, no, no! The wolf stares down at the panel, and I look out the window as the stars seem to curve all the way to my right, making me feel sick again, and the next thing I know, the cabin is lit up by an ominous red glow. The windows suddenly tint, blocking the worst of the light, and that's when I'm able to see a massive ball of fire in front of the ship. The size of it is incredible. Orbital trajectory will intersect with the photosphere. Ensure safety straps are in place, making corrective maneuvers. only have a moment to wonder what the hell Calm is talking about before Amicus and I are thrown sideways onto the left window of the ship. The impact is mostly cushioned by Amicus's body, and I hear him yell and curse under me. Move! Get in the seat! I struggle to reach out to the seat in front of me, but I can barely lift my hand. The gravity of the star is so powerful, it feels like it's going to suck out my soul. Then I'm suddenly boosted up by something behind me, and I look back, the movement making me feel like my neck is going to break. I see Amicus with his back planted against the window, his feet pushing me up to the seat. I manage to grab the armrest and pull myself into it. Now the left armrest is digging painfully into my back, making me feel as if a professional wrestler is slamming me into a backbreaker. Amicus jumps from the window high enough that his feet land against the right side of my chair. Then he jumps again, managing to wedge himself in the footwell of the opposite seat. Heat shields are compromised. Expect heat damage to outer layer of ship in 30 seconds. With a great deal of snarling and gasping, he pushes himself awkwardly into the seat, both feet planted against the panels in front of him for leverage. Oh god, that's kind of loud. He turns to me, teeth bared, a determined look in his eyes. Look at your right armrest. Do you see the green panel between the red buttons? Through the shock, I'm somehow able to understand him and look down. Now drag your finger across it to the left. It'll steer the ship. I feel panic starting to rise in my chest at the idea of steering a goddamn spaceship. What? Just do us. Point us away from the star. I do as I'm told, sliding a thumb gingerly over the green panel. And slowly the ship turns, pointing away from the star, shifting the incredible force of gravity until it's pulling us back into the seats. Now, see that lever in between us? Yeah? Pull it down. Reaching my hand out is almost impossible as it gets pulled back toward the star behind us. Gritting my teeth, I lean forward as hard as I can, practically throwing myself forward and grabbing onto the lever. Then gravity does the rest of the work and the lever comes down hard. I lose my grip and get thrown back into my seat. The gravity increases twofold, and for a moment it feels like my entire body is being crushed into a pancake. And then the bumming orange light is gone and the deck goes black. Running diagnostics. Amicus? Yes, Com? Damage to the ship is severe. Recovery mode is required. Enter recovery mode. Standby. We sit in silence for a long, long time. I lean against the seat with both feet drawn up to my chest, feeling numb and shaky. I also feel stupid, embarrassed, and kinda guilty. On one hand, I nearly just got both of us killed. But on the other hand, this crazy alien almost killed me by bringing me here in the first place. At least it feels that way. I still don't know what his ultimate plan is with me. I wonder for the 100th time if I'm going to wake up. I plug my nose and try to breathe through my nostrils. No air comes through. I sigh and look out the window at the blue glow that we found ourselves in. The star that we just escaped is far away now, though it's still an almost blinding tiny orb far to my left, kind of like the sun was not too long ago. It's lighting up all of this dust that's around us with an eerie blue glow. It's kind of calming. I look over at Amicus and see him slumped in his chair, looking out the window. His shoulders are hunched, ears drooping, and his head down. He's on the edge of his seat because his arms are still tied behind his back, forcing him to lean forward a bit. Calm hasn't spoken since we went into recovery mode, and the ship hasn't moved at all. The usual hum isn't even there. It's like everything is turned off. I finally decide to break the silence. Amicus? I see his ears flick, but he keeps his head down, not even looking at me. I swallow, then try again. Amicus. I see his shoulders rise and fall in a deep sigh, but he keeps silent. I'm about to just give up and slump back in my seat when he suddenly responds. What? What's happening? The wolf turns to glare at me. What do you mean, what's happening? You broke the ship! He turns away and continues to sulk. I feel a little anger at that, and I realize that this alien isn't alien at all. He's just acting like an upset human kid that didn't get his way. It makes me a little less afraid of him. Excuse me? Do I have to go through the list of shit that you did to me? Amicus turns to me again, and I can almost see his mind working to think of some sort of comeback. Well, I think you topped it by nearly throwing us into a star, human. You shouldn't have kidnapped me in the first place, wolf. I should be calling you I should be calling you child, since that's what you are. Well, this child outsmarted you, zapped you, and tied you up. I see him bristle, the hackles rising on his shoulders like a dog. You could have killed me! That setting is meant for creatures 3 times my size. How was I supposed to know? I don't know anything about what's going on. I told you what's going on. You really think I'm stupid, don't you? Amicus pouts and turns away. I think you thought I was some stupid alien who could just take advantage of. I can tell you've been lying to me this whole time. Amicus flattens his ears even more, shoulders bunching up. Is that what you and your people do, kidnapping and lying to everyone you meet? Now his hackles really raise up and he turns on me fast. I try not to lean back. Despite the similarities, he's still a wolf and those teeth are terrifying. I do not lie. The wolf's righteous indignation seems to deflate. The situation is too complicated for you to understand. I glare at him. Who's tied up again? Amicus doesn't take the bait this time and remains slumped. I guess it doesn't matter now. We're probably going to die out here with how badly the ship is burned. That makes my stomach twist a bit. I want to ask him if he's just moping or if he actually thinks we're going to die. But another long moment of silence stretches between us. I look out the window again at the towering clouds of dust in front of us. Well, if that's the case, then can you just tell me what's going on? Amicus goes on staring out his window. I sigh and lean back, resigned to the idea that I might not ever know why I was dragged out to space, to simply get stuck and die in a dust cloud. Then Amicus speaks. I made some mistakes. I glance at him, waiting, not wanting to say anything in case he stops talking. I didn't know your species wasn't part of the Galaxias. It's very illegal to make first contact without authorization from a parent. Parent? The authorities of the galaxy. I frown and Amicus looks at the confusion on my face. How can I put this simply? There are 3 levels in the Galaxias. At the very top are the parents. They arrive from beyond our galaxy to spread their culture here. Amicus glances at me. You know what a galaxy is? That there are others outside of our own? Yeah? Amicus lets out a breathy chuckle. Of course, I probably should have expected that. So you must know that intergalactic travel is incredibly advanced, almost godlike, and that's what they are. Gods. There are 8 of them that are still present in our galaxy, though they rarely communicate with us these days. Then there are the siblings. That's what my species is a part of. The galaxy was scoped out by the parents at the very start to find the most intelligent and capable species. They each selected one, and we were the ones chosen and uplifted by the Romanus. The note of pride in Amicus's voice is obvious. From then on, it has been our mission to increase intelligence in promising species and teach them our philosophy and culture to uplift. I try to make sense of that in terms I can understand. So, you spread their culture for the parents. They're like your god and your species are like missionaries. Amicus shrugs. Yeah, sort of like that. It doesn't sound so great, especially when I compare it to things that have happened on Earth. Mass galactic assimilation. So, why are they doing this? If they got here at the same time and did the same thing, does that mean they're working together? Amicus shakes his head. We don't really know all of the reasons for what the parents do, but we compete with the other siblings. But that brings me to the rest of the sapiens in the galaxy, the children. The siblings uplift these children and bring them into our fold under the direction of our parents. Again, you haven't told us exactly what's going on, but we came to the conclusion that it's some sort of competition, and we mean to win for our parents. So, I'm a child? Well, no, not really. I've been calling you that, but you're not part of the Galaxias, and that's where I've made my mistake. Like I said, it was illegal for me to contact you, but I didn't know. How did you not know? Shouldn't you have a record for this type of stuff? That's the confusing part to me. I found Earth in the library, so there was a record of it, but there wasn't much. Just a few footnotes about a sapient species there. But because that record exists, I found that your species was uplifted to child status at some point. In Rome? Presumably. But sometimes the species is unable to be uplifted for different reasons. Too aggressive, too docile, too unintelligent. Amicus glances at me. I thought this is what happened to your species. Then, if we've been uplifted, doesn't that mean that you've already made first contact? Yes, but you're still not part of the Galaxias. That's why I made the mistake. You should know about it, but you don't. Knowledge of other intelligent life is sacred, and for whatever reason, your species lost it. So it doesn't matter that we've made contact before. If the knowledge of the Galaxias has been lost, then any form of communication between us is first contact all over again. And while uplift has been cancelled with species in the past, we don't completely cut off contact. They're permanently part of the Galaxias. I've never heard of something like this happening before, so I panicked. Calm. Amicus glances at the ceiling. Wasn't able to tell me that until he connected to your nexus. Nexus? Another word that doesn't translate. Like the technology that connects places, people, information, the internet, if that's your word for it. So, I try to understand everything I'm being told. Why didn't you just tell me all of this before you kidnapped me or knocked me out? I see Amicus's ears flatten and he looks awake, clearly ashamed. I don't know. I didn't fully understand the intelligence of your species yet. Thought I could just lead you to believe things. I don't say anything and Amicus shifts uncomfortably. Leaving you on Earth after you saw me, you might have gone to the authorities on your planet with that knowledge which might have led to a monitor being alerted. Amicus answers my question before I can ask it. Monitors are basically the ears and eyes of the parents. They monitor the galaxy. And what happens if they're alerted? Amicus sighs deeply. I don't know. It hasn't happened in a long time, and I don't think anyone has ever broken this particular law. It's one of the most important laws we're supposed to follow. Knowing I'd broken it... Amicus pauses. Scared you? Amicus shakes his head but doesn't say anything. I try to piece all of this together in my mind. So, then you panicked and kidnapped me. It was either that or kill you, or leave you and hope for the best, but that was a risk that I felt I couldn't take at the time. Amicus seems to shrink in his seat. And I guess I didn't want to tell you because I knew I disrupted your life in a terrible way. Thought I might be able to make you forget and want to stay with me if you saw my home. But why? Why did you do it in the first place? What do you want from me? Amicus looks at me for a long while, probably debating on how much to tell me, then he turns away. I needed a pet. Excuse me? Amicus shrinks up even more in his chair. It's a very long story. I glance at the back of his head. Well, if we're going to be here a while, then I have time. Amicus goes on staring out the window. My father was the emperor. The throne was mine to take, but my brother has challenged me, so now we're both competing for it. Amicus looks at me out of the corner of his eye for my reaction. His expression tells me I should be impressed, but learning he might be an influential figure among his people doesn't really seem too crazy after the events of the past day or so. And getting a pet will help you how? My brother has one, a sibling species, which means that his pet is on the same level of the hierarchy as us. I frown. Oh, and that's unusual? Definitely. It shouldn't even be legal, but somehow he negotiated it. They signed a contract and everything. I shake my head. So what does having a pet do? Amicus shrugs. It's a good status symbol to have. The fact that my brother was able to obtain such a prestigious pet shows his skill at negotiation and has put me at a huge disadvantage. I needed to do something even more grand to impress my father's advisor. He's the one that will choose between us. By kidnapping me? Amicus growls. That wasn't part of the plan. I thought you'd know what I was and be amazed that a wolf had come back to your species. I was going to make a deal with you, like my brother did with his pet. I wanted a sapient that no one had seen in a long time. So that's why I'm here, to be used as some pawn in some power struggle in an alien empire far away? So why can't you take me back? What if I promise not to say anything? I would take you back if I could. I realize now that that would have been the better option, but I can't. Why not? First of all, the ship might be damaged beyond repair. Secondly, there isn't enough power to get back. Earth was on the outer reaches of how far I could travel. I need the rest to return home. I managed to stop myself from telling the wolf that this is his fault and shouldn't be my problem at all. Well, can we get more power when we get back to your home than go back to Earth? No, it's a type of power that the parents produce. We're not able to harness it. Yet. So get more from them, from wherever you got the power in the first place. Amicus leans his head against the headrest. Our parents authorizes and distributes it. and for whatever reason, they stopped supplying it when we lost our Emperor. I feel myself growing more and more frustrated. Then how the hell are you using it now? A moment of silence goes by. This was my father's ship. Only the Emperor has constant access to the technology. I borrowed it to get to you. I glare at him. You mean you stole it? You know, you're pretty dishonest for someone who says they never lie. Another soft rumbling growl from him. Times are desperate. Ask your dad to take me back then. If you didn't gather from earlier, he's dead, so no one has access to it right now. I'm just using up what was left. I stare at Amicus for a while, words failing me. Listen, I don't want to do all those things I did to you. I'm protecting us both. I laugh. Oh, really? Yes, I was planning to bring you to the palace to live a good life and forget your old one. Then you started asking those questions. I realized your intelligence is much higher than I thought it would be. Then Calm thought you might attack me. I made mistakes. Amicus lets out another huge sigh and slumps in the seat, looking away. Several minutes go by, in silence, both of us staring out into the eerie blue. So, what now? What are your plans? Amicus is the one to laugh this time. Get out of these bonds if you'd let me. I look at him incredulously. Amicus sighs. Listen, you have no idea how to handle this ship. I can at least run diagnostics to see what we can do about this. What's to stop you from knocking me out again? If you don't attack me or hit me with the nervo again, then I won't have to. I look to my left armrest and pick up the little taser device. This? Amicus eyes it uneasily. Yeah. How can I trust you after everything that's happened? I give you my word. I frown. And you could go back on it just as easily. I would never do that. I don't make promises lightly, Marco. Amicus is so indignant that I actually believe him. Or he's just a really good actor. Either way, I'm going to have to let him go at some point, especially if we really can't get back to Earth. So I make my decision. If I let you go, you have to find a way to get me back to Earth. Amicus thinks for a moment. I can do that if I become Emperor. And how long will that take? Amicus shrugs. A few months if all goes well. With your help, it could be even faster. You're very clever. More intelligent than some wolves I know, even. Months? My parents are probably freaking out by now. School starts in a few weeks. All of these things seem so distant now. Amicus frowns. I'm sorry, but I can't do anything. I need to be an emperor to even talk to the parents. I think, but again, I don't have many options. I look Amicus in the eye. You promise? You have my word. For a moment I sit there, contemplating. Then I sit up straight. Alright, stand up. Amicus perks up, then hops to his bound feet, almost falling over. I'm sure to place the nervo close by behind me, just in case. A few minutes later, and the wolf is free. We both regard each other warily for a few moments before Amicus finally sighs. Listen, I have no reason to incapacitate you now that you know everything. But if it makes you feel better, you can hang on to the nervo until we get to Adastra. That a fair exchange? I look back at the little device. While I have little reason to trust Amicus, the wolf has virtually no reason to trust me. I consider it, then shake my head. Can we put it away somewhere? I'd rather just not be thinking about it. Amicus looks at me in surprise, then rubs his stomach where I jabbed him. Okay, yeah, that sounds like a deal to me. Amicus holds out a paw, and I look down at the thick black pads on his fingers and palm before quickly picking up the nervo and handing it to him carefully. For a moment, I imagine him immediately turning the thing around and jabbing it into my face, but instead he turns and walks toward the back of the ship. I notice his stance is slightly bow-legged, and he adjusts himself for a few times. That makes me feel a little guilty about fighting dirty earlier. But only a little. On his way, he sweeps up his cape in one fluid motion before wrapping it around his shoulders. Then he moves to the back wall and, sticking out a paw, he presses a panel, and a small portion of the wall slides back, revealing another smaller room. From where I am, I can see what looks like a little cot and various cupboards. He opens one of these and places the nervo inside before shutting it. He comes back out and notices me staring. That's my quarters. It's where I sleep. If you need to urinate or whatever else you do, there's a toilet in there. I'm fine for now. I feel my stomach gurgle, something that it's been doing for a while now. I am a little hungry, though. Amicus raises a brow. You want to try it again? Sure. It's not the worst food I've ever had. The earthy smell translates into the taste, and there's a strange hint of sweetness to it, like chocolate, and that makes it a little more palatable. I can at least swallow it down without gagging, so that's good, I guess. Amicus has his own cup, though he's paying more attention to the panels than to his food. I may have exaggerated a bit earlier. Damage appears to be minimal. We're actually lucky that you didn't lock onto something worse than a pit. There was one very near that star. A pit? Amicus shrugs, waving his hand in the air as if brushing my question aside. A very strong gravitational singularity that sucks everything up around it. Like a black hole. Black hole? Like, its gravity is so powerful that even light gets pulled into it. That's why they're black. Amicus looks at me in surprise. Oh, you know what that is? Guess I should stop being surprised, honestly. You humans really are something. You basically uplifted yourselves. I shrug. We touched on it in my Astronomy 101 class. I don't know much about them. But the fact that your species found out about them in the first place. Anyway, Amicus presses a button before suddenly the hum of the ship comes back to life. Systems back online. And? Amicus pulls the lever and suddenly the blue disappears and the windows are filled with warping stars again. I immediately look away, feeling the chocolate mud start to work its way up my throat. We were actually almost to Adastra when you took control. Amicus rubs the side of his neck, wincing as he stretches it out. Should be there fairly soon. What is this? I wave my hand at the window, not looking. The bending light? It's the stretch drive. Basically, space is being shortened ahead of us. Amicus puts his paws close together in front of himself, and stretched out behind us. Amicus stretches his paws out wide. I don't really know how it works. Only the parents can build this kind of tech, and it's the only way I could get to Earth, or anywhere outside our star system, really. They even figured out a way to make time stand still around us when we traveled. Otherwise, way too much time would have passed back home. I'm starting to get a picture of how powerful these parents actually are, being capable of warping space and time to their will. And so how much more time? Arriving at Stella Vita. And just like that, the stars become still again. Amicus grins. Welcome to Adastra, Marco. I look out the window and see a large green and blue sphere shimmer below me. Below it, there's another globe, this one chalky and gray. A smaller, even brighter orb floats further to the right, its color almost pure white. Amicus points to the more Earth-like sphere. That specifically is Adastra. The planet to the left is Ancoris. There aren't many people there aside from miners. The smallest is Torque, another moon. I know you live on a planet, so Adastra might seem a bit small to you. I press a hand to the window and notice that it's ice cold. Looks pretty big from here. Amicus leans over the console and starts touching at the screen. Re-entry sequence engaged. Go ahead and put your safety straps on. Re-entry is never comfortable in smaller ships. I hurriedly do as he says, sitting down and trying to figure out the seatbelt. Eventually, Amicus has to come over to help, showing me how the strap just feeds into a slot. This automatically pulls the strap tightly across my waist and chest. As Amicus gets in his own seat, we start to curve around to the darker side of Adastra. Every now and then, there's a bit of a downward tug on my stomach, sort of like when the passenger jet I was in was landing in Rome. I had imagined that things would rattle around, along with a bunch of fire and heat like in a Hollywood movie. Instead, there's only a rumbling sound that accompanies a gentle vibration through the seat. There isn't any fire, but I do start to see blue flashes on the otherwise black windows. I look over at Amicus and see that he's got his eyes closed, looking relaxed. The wolf opens his eyes and smiles gently at me. Don't worry, this is all normal. I realize how nervous I must look, so I nod and lean my head back in the seat. The electric blue flashes stop after a while, and then one final downward pull on my body before the rumbling fades out. We sit in complete silence and darkness for a moment before I hear Amicus moving next to me. Okay, we're in the hangar now. Right now, just follow me into the palace. Amicus gets up, but the ship stays dark. So does the hangar. Okay, why aren't there any lights? Everyone's probably asleep. I don't want to wake them. I get the feeling that he just doesn't want anyone to catch us, but I don't say anything. I fiddle with my seatbelt, unable to get it undone until I feel Amicus lean over me, breathing in my ear as his large paw covers mine. Something pressing something that releases the strap. I stand up, feeling around blindly as I hold onto the seat, only barely able to make out the red bristles of the headrest in front of me. I reach out a hand. Hey, Amicus's rough paw pads envelop my hand. What's wrong? I can't see anything. Oh, can you not see in low light? Amicus starts pulling me along before I hear a soft beep, then a whooshing sound. Not really. Another sound catches my attention. Crickets. Do they have crickets here too? At the same time, I'm hit by a wall of humid warmth, almost like walking into a sauna. Amicus puts a paw against my chest. Wait a second. Then I hear a soft thud followed by a grunt. Hello? Lean down. My eyes have adjusted a bit more to the dark, and I'm barely able to make out what I think are paws reaching up toward me. I crouch down, and Amicus grabs me under the arms before pulling me clumsily off the deck of the ship. My face smashes against his furry chest before I'm set down on my feet. Alright, so we're just going to go straight to my room. Try not to make too much noise. I start to nod, but Amicus is already pulling me along. The humidity presses down on me like a physical force, and I start to worry that I might actually have trouble surviving on this moon. It's really hot. Things will cool off once we're inside. I can hear him panting heavily as we move through the hangar. I still can't see much, just angular shapes in the darkness. But finally, I see some light ahead along with some cold air. We turn a corner, and I have to blink again at how bright it suddenly becomes. And this is where we're going to leave off. It's always the opening of visual novels that are the hardest to get through. But we just did. But anyways, stay safe and have a good night.